Hey Scrappers, it's Vanessa here with another scrapbook process video, and today I am using that color palette that you see up in the top right of my screen, and I was going for more the pinks and the yellows that you see in that color palette. But I did want to pull in just a little bit of that light blue, and then I also added in some of this darker, it's not a navy, it's more maybe a royal blue color. And so I'm just going to have this royal blue color be what I mat my photo with, and it comes in some of the embellishments. And I like how the royal blue kind of goes with my photos, since there's a lot of blue in my photos with my daughter's shirt and the fish behind her. And so I thought it was nice to kind of add that additional color. So the next thing, once I had my photo all framed with that pattern paper, I'm going to take these other scraps, which all came from my stash. They're all older pieces of pattern paper, and I had this white piece of cardstock that had a piece taken out of it, so I will be covering that up for the layout. And then I have this yellow stripe, and I have cut that down, and it's going to go here to the right to cover up part of that open spot that I had on that white cardstock. Now, this pink pattern paper has a very tiny polka dot in it. It's a tone-on-tone polka dot, and it really doesn't show up on camera, but it's not just a pink piece of cardstock, it is actually a pattern paper. You just can't see it. But I did go ahead and take my favorite scalloped border punch, and I have punched that along that pink pattern paper just to add some interest to my layers that are going to go here to the right. And I'm going to layer that pink underneath that yellow stripe. And so that's going to cover up that gap that I had in my white pattern paper. And then I'm going to mat that entire section on the blue cardstock that you see in behind. So that's bringing in that lighter blue color that I mentioned at the beginning. Now I felt like I needed to bridge the gap between that pink and that yellow piece of pattern paper. So I did decide to do my little washi trick and put this pink washi tape on a piece of white cardstock and just cut it out so that then I can use it like a piece of pattern paper and use it to put in between those two pattern papers, just again to kind of give it a finished edge. Once I have that, or the initial design down on the layout, I am now going to work on the other element that I wanted to bring to this layout, which was to use up a whole bunch of frames. And as I was going through and picking out embellishments for this, I realized that I had a ton of these frames. A lot of them are Dear Lizzie, I think, and then some are crepe paper, and there might be even a Kaiser Craft one in there as well. But they all match the colors that I was going for, and so I just wanted to go ahead and find a way to use them in a different way and sort of get a whole bunch of frames used up on this layout. So I kind of like this where all of the frames are sort of piled up to the left side of this layout beside my photo. So I kind of thought this was kind of a good way to use up a lot of my frames and have it sort of work with the design of the page. So once I had those laid out, I did mark where they were going to land on that background. And because I can't seem to leave a white piece of cardstock just plain white, I did pull out some Stampin' Up!, I want to say that was Soft Sky, and a stamp that was just a whole bunch of circles, which to me look like bubbles. And I went ahead and stamped those down, and then I added some cotton candy pink shimmers just in some splatters to my background. So because I wasn't using any water, everything dried immediately, so I didn't have to have any wait time to finish this layout. But I do like just to add that little bit of interest to the background, so it's not just a flat white cardstock. And now you see I'm going to build out my background. Here is, at this point, I'm putting this down and I'm realizing that I was not really thinking when I cut this yellow piece of pattern paper, and it's not as long as I want it to be. And so yeah, it was like a comedy of errors, because even when I was matting my photo, I didn't measure the pattern paper correctly, and so I ended up having to sort of add a little piece to the edge, which you don't even see, but none of my cuts were correct for this layout. It was like everything that could go wrong kind of went wrong. So I turned the camera off, cut a new piece of yellow, and matted those papers to the blue cardstock, and then now you see I'm just adding that finishing stripe with that washi tape strip that I have going there, and that will be how the background goes for this layout. Next, I'm going to bring back all of these frames, and because I feel like when you have frames, it almost always, to me, I feel like there's always something missing if I don't at least make one of them into a shaker. And with as many as I had on this layout, I decided that 2 of them needed to become shaker pockets. And so I am just taking my Doris small foam strips and I'm just putting them around this blue frame. I did put a piece of acetate and then put the foam around it, and that's going to act as one of my little shakers. And then I have this other frame that is, I believe, from crepe paper, and it already had sort of a piece of acetate attached to it, and it's like sticky on the back anyway, so I don't know if they meant for these to be shakers, but it worked out perfectly that I just had to then add my foam. And I'm going to go ahead and add my sequins. Now I'm using 2 different kinds of sequins, both from Spiegelmom Scraps. One came in my Creative Cuts Club kit, and then the other was just a package from the store. I didn't catch what they were on camera, but if you need to know the names, just let me know. They are old, so I don't think they are still available. And the Creative Cuts one was custom made for the kit club, so the only one that you would have was the pink one, but again, they are quite old. And so I do love how these turned out. I love the colors. They're nice and bright and happy, and they match the color scheme that I was going for perfectly. So I really love how it kind of ties all the colors together. So once I have all the sequins, I'm just going to take a piece of scrap white cardstock, and I'm just going to back the 2 frames and cut off the excess, and I will have 2 cute little shakers for my page. Now this one gave me a little bit of trouble when I took off that foam, because inevitably with at least one of them I always have a sequin that wants to get stuck to the foam, and so it wouldn't seal properly, but I fixed that and cut off the edges, and I have my second shaker all complete. And then off to the side there on the right, you see a whole bunch of different embellishment pieces. I have tags and some butterflies, and all of the florals that you see are actually fussy cut from the pattern paper that I backed my photo. I just fussy cut a whole bunch of the florals that were on that pattern paper, and so I will be using those as well for embellishments on my page. Now that I have my frames all laid back out, I am going to start to lay out all of the embellishments that are going to go on this page. I do go off camera, however, here and glue those frames down so that they don't move. I ended up backing those frames with some pattern paper, again, just to add some interest, and I didn't want to have just plain white backgrounds because I'm not completely filling the frames. And so I did go ahead and do that off camera, glued them down, and now I'm taking all of those bits and pieces and I'm just going to create my little embellishment clusters. So this is definitely one of those layouts that does not have sort of 3 embellishment clusters. It's really just the frames, and then I have 1 embellishment cluster, I guess you could call it, off to the side of my photo to the right. But apart from that, everything else is sort of just the frames and some embellishments that go in each of the frames. And I really love how this overall layout went. It was a great way to use up a whole bunch of bits and pieces in my stash. And I also decided to use this ephemera piece, and I want to say it might have been from a Maggie Holmes collection. I have no idea which one, but I think that might have been where it came from. And it just says, "You are wonderful." And I decided that that was going to be my title. So it worked out perfect that I could use that up, and it played double duty for both an embellishment and my title. And there you see I have all those florals, and I'm kind of just dotting them around in each of the frames. I love that pop of color it adds and the interest it adds to each of the frames. So while you watch me kind of build out each of my clusters, I will let you know that this photo is of my kids, and we are at Disney, and we are outside of the Nemo and Friends ride. And so there's a little place where you can get your picture taken with all of the little fishes. And so I had them stop, and they posed for a picture. They weren't too happy about posing for that picture. They love when I ask them constantly to take pictures. But they did what I asked, and they eventually smiled and let me take their picture. So that's what I'm documenting. There's no real story. It's just a fun vacation memory that'll go in our album. Now, to finish it off, I do have just not a puffy, it's one of an epoxy sticker from one of a Maggie Holmes collections. And I stuck that bow up there at the top. I thought it kind of pulled out some of that darker pink and kind of finished off that frame at the top. Now, as a finishing touch for this layout, I did pull out some of these enamel hearts, which are very old, from Amy Tangerine. And I do believe off camera I end up gluing these down because they really are not sticky anymore. And it's been a little while since I created this layout, and I can't remember if I used those blue sequins or not, but I don't think I do. So guys, with that, here are the still photos, and I will catch you on the next layout. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.